my North Star is bringing value. But to me, I started seeing that the music industry was starting to fade from a value perspective.
He's been a music industry executive, a creative thinker.
What FaZe did was they made gaming cool. These people were absolutely reinventing entertainment at a time when Hollywood was shrinking.
He's an entrepreneur, a risk taker, a mentor.
The way you live and the way you work, it's gotta be the same person.
The journey to be a better version of his younger self, to make his inner child proud. I'm honored to listen and learn about his journey from his perspective.
What is it that you look for with partnerships that makes it so, okay, I can click with these guys?
Always look for people in a vital part of the value chain of what we're trying to do.
I wanted to understand, like, what is the hardest truth that you ever had to accept about yourself? There it is. What's up, brother?
My brother.
Good to see you. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely.
You know, really honored that that you offered your space, your time, you know, and you've always been super accommodating. You've always been somebody who just give access, not like somebody who's just kind of like hold, you know. And I think a big part of why I really wanted to do this was perspective is really our story, you know, the life we lead. Yep. And you really never understand anybody until you really start to dig in. And you're really never going to completely understand somebody. But, you know, that part of telling a story really starts with listening. I think you do an incredible job of that. And that's why I really wanted to kind of have this opportunity to sit with you. Because I think listening is one of the most important parts of understanding. And I think there's a lot of misunderstanding that happens just in or just in life. So I wanted to first say that. And then we'll do the classic introduction, of course. Sure. But, you know, you were a music, you know, you're an attorney, a music executive. You became a co-founder of Beluga Heights. You founded some incredible artists. You went into BMG, starting creative, and built your way up to being a president there. And then you stepped away and became an entrepreneur and built a music tech, you know, fund with Scooter Braun and some incredible people.
Yep.
You were president of FaZe Clan. You now are co-founded, you know, really kind of evolving into this new space at Fixated. So, you know, Mr. Zach Katz, we appreciate you. And most importantly, you're a father and a husband. So,
brother, appreciate the kind intro. Wow, you really ran it all down. I like that.
Yeah, well, you know, I figured it's deserved. You know, you deserve your flowers.
Thank you, brother.
And titles are one thing, but really the person really is what matters the most, the essence of them. So I'd really like for you to kind of give us a glimpse into your perspective, like who are you, the essence of you, and what makes you who you are.
I mean, look, it's a big question. You know, I think that we are shaped by, you know, kind of the DNA and the genes that we are, you know, born with, right? And then from there, everything else is journey, conditioning, you know, the way you are affected by your surroundings, people, experiences, who you kind of grow up to be in those experiences. And I think that for me, I'm ultimately, you know, a kid that came here at the age of 7 from Russia, from Moscow. I was an only child. My parents decided in their mid-30s to kind of break the ceiling off of what life could be back in Russia. We were living in communism, and, you know, for them, they wanted to have a much more expansive existence, wanted me to be able to dream and pursue, you know, a greater life than we could have had there. And, you know, we came here together, kind of the three musketeers, and none of us spoke English. It was a very, very humbling experience. You know, so I'm the kid that got here and got put into special learning classes and, you know, got my ass kicked on the playground every day for being an outsider and wearing the exact same clothes, you know, 5 days a week. They were clean because my mom washed them, but I didn't have a second set of clothes, right? And I remember, you know, probably after, you know, the 5th time of being bullied on the playground, laying on my back with somebody's foot on my chest, kind of that I'm going to show these guys kind of energy was born.
Yeah.
You know, it's like these experiences, you know, from especially at a young age, it's either like you're going to fold or you have a quote unquote the chip on the shoulder is born. And for me, you know, when I look at anybody who's lives with intention and ambition, it's always an experience or set of experiences that give birth to that chip on the shoulder. And for me, it was coming here as an immigrant, having to, you know, fight my way into just, you know, being accepted in some way, shape, or form. And that's been a part of my journey. And I think it's shown up a lot of different times during my past, you know, 25 years as an executive, an entrepreneur, a father, a husband, a son. You know, it's a bit of that fighting spirit.
Yeah. You know, that person, right? Obviously, it's like difficult to go from that person to who you are today, right? I think the nuance of being an immigrant and kind of this need or this, you know, this fight that, you know, I'll say we, you know, born in Lebanon, immigrated to this country with my family. There's like this inner fight that we have to kind of, and you tell me if you feel this way, it's like to be seen or prove ourselves.
Yes.
And that was a big thing for me. You know what I mean? It's like, I really just like, man, I can do this.
Yep.
I just need the opportunity, you know?
Yep.
Did you feel that way?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that, you know, you go through these phases of first you want to, you know, we all have our stronger side, and then we have this, you know, kind of very, you know, I'm not good enough side, right? And I think we fluctuate, and I think with time and experience, you know, you start kind of, you know, walking away from the smaller me into the bigger me, you know, coming here at that age. There was a lot of smaller me at that particular point. And, you know, for me, it was initially trying to fit in, trying to learn English very, very quickly, trying to lose my accent very, very quickly, right? Trying to have friends very, very quickly, because back then I didn't want to stand out, right? To me, standing out was my first experience with standing out was like, hey, guess what? You're bullied, you're everything else, right? You're that kid that nobody wants to deal with, right? So it was about blending in.
Right.
With time and with, you know, understanding that my journey was valuable to me and interesting to others, right? I transformed from fitting in to actually understanding the power of being an immigrant, having the journey, being different, coming from a different culture, being able to speak another language, right? And I really, really started embracing the way that stood out rather than trying to hide it. And I also found that a lot of people, in fact, everybody stands out in their own way.
Right.
And just being able to walk in the world and sharing my journey with people, it really, really, it was relatable to everyone, no matter if you came from another country or not.
Right.
Everyone has a version of that. Like, where do I fit in? Am I an imposter? Right. Do I want to just blend in and kind of be unnoticed and kind of like live as part of just, you know, just another, you know, face in the sea of faces? Or do I want to kind of grasp onto what a bigger version of my life and my purpose is?
Right.
So,
and you've dealt with so many different kinds of people, which is, I think, the beauty of managing relationships and just relationships in general is being able to pivot. And, you know, I was taught something when I was a saying when I was younger, it was KYP, know your personnel.
Yes.
And you've dealt with insane artists, insane in the sense of like the level of creativity, right? Because you already know working with artists, you just have to be prepared for truly anything.
Yes.
You've also dealt with the music executives and, you know, interns and the whole gamut. And you've managed a lot of people. What is the thing that separates, I guess, I don't want to say separates you from others, but the thing that really drives your ability to quickly understand and make decisions?
Yeah, I think it's really, really simple. I think it's actually understanding who you're speaking with and understanding what their view of themselves is, right? And inviting them into a situation that can actually better them as much as is bettering your side of the table. I don't care if it's an intern, I don't care if it's a creator, I don't care if it's an executive, it doesn't matter. The bottom line is, if you can figure out how to create win-wins in every single situation, no matter who you're dealing with, you're going to invite them to show up at in their highest form,
Right.
From a human level, from a professional level, right? When you're just trying to fit people into your agenda, that's when people feel left behind, and then they're ultimately having to fit into your vision of what it could be, rather than creating a vision of something together. And that applies to every interaction. So it starts with understanding. To your point earlier, it's about listening and creating the space to understand who you're interacting with, and what their loves are, what their fears are, what they want to do next.
Yeah.
So at every given point, you're figuring, you by understanding them, you can create the right kind of relationship and the right kind of environment that leads to that win-win.
Yeah. I think you hit on a perfect point there, like understanding their loves. Like, what are your loves?
Right.
You know, like when you're at a party, you know, we were talking about this off before we started.
Yeah.
And a big part of why I was thinking about perspective and, you know, doing this interview series was, you'll be at a party and you're like, you know, doing, you know, talk about the things that you're doing. At least I do. Be like, man, you're doing what you love.
Yeah.
And I want to be like, well, what do you love? Why aren't you doing it?
Yeah.
Right. So like, what is it that you love and what brought you to wanting to do it?
Yeah. I mean, for me, you know, the nectar of life completely is people, right? So for me, I love people. I'm intrigued by people. I think that, you know, people are literally the most important and frankly the most interesting, like, part of life. Like, people are interested in movies, people are interested in books, you know, people are interested in music. That's great, but you're surrounded by humans.
Right.
Like, how much more interesting does it get? How do you know than like living, breathing people that have backgrounds and stories and ideas and thoughts and emotions and fears and aspirations, and like, so to me, I've always been absolutely intrigued with people, learning from them, collaborating with them, you know, challenging them. I think that for me, we all have different passions, and fortunately, from time to time, those passions turn into, you know, things that become your gifts and your superpowers. I'm very, very passionate about people.
Yeah.
Just naturally intrigued. Find people to be more interesting than anything else in the world.
Right.
Right. And because of that interest, that intrigue, that curiosity has kind of become a bit of a lifelong love, and frankly, a bit of a lifelong superpower. So to me, it's like, what's the most interesting thing? Humans.
And you were so heavy involved in music, and just recently it's been kind of like the real shift. Yeah. Like, what brought you to music, and then now this evolution of entertainment? Yeah. You've always kind of like worked to see what's happening before it's happening, and that's not me just gassing you up. Like, that's always been that way when I've seen you kind of like in your movements. Yeah. So like, what brought you to music, and what kind of like made you take that next step?
Yeah. So along the track of finding people to be the most wildly interesting, you know, part of life, there are different kinds of people that I find to be, you know, interesting and kind of pull me in. And to me, people who creative people have always been, you know, very, very interesting and intriguing. You know, when you look at people who are talented, people who self-express, who have gifts, and they kind of their purpose is to create something for the world to benefit from, enjoy, use, whatever else. I find those people to be extremely, extremely unique. So for me, from day one, I felt like I understood those kinds of people just naturally, even being in high school, and friends of mine that even were, you know, aspiring music artists, right?
Right.
It was just like, wow, you are so special.
Yeah.
And the reality is, you are over-indexing on your talent, creative talent. You're going to need somebody that's going to help you take your vision and this gift and put it on full display for the world to see. That's where for yin and yang, like that's where we can come together. So to me, I always found creative people to be very, very special and different.
Yeah.
You know, the world looks at creative people through one of two lenses. One is, they are very, very difficult. And for some people, it stops there. That's
Right.
it. They're difficult.
Full
and
stop.
End of
It's
story.
like, yeah, don't want to deal with them.
Don't want to deal with them.
Yeah.
And then there's people that are like, yep, number one, they're very, very difficult. But they are the most incredible, the most magical people in the world. And it is my honor to be able to be on this journey with them and help them bring that gift to life and put it all on display. So I fell in love with that very, 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 very early on. I fell in love with this, this group of citizens of this world,
Right.
these creators,
Right.
very, very early on. And, look, I'm creative,
Yeah.
but I think more than anything else, I think I am deeply, deeply empathetic. And I think it's very easy for me to understand people,
Yeah.
and for people to in turn trust me. And I think that's allowed me to, number one, really be a student of creativity, to understand where it comes from and what it is and its power and its purpose.
It's like how to empower it.
And then how to ultimately become like this support system for those people. Because people want to work with people who they trust and they feel understood by and connected to. And when you have that, right, and you actually can, you also have this other side of yourself where you can organize and build and have vision and create roadmaps for growth and success. The combination of those two things can put you on the kind of path that I've been on, which has been ultimately a champion of creative people. At the end of the day, that's really all I've done, is just champion creative people. Sometimes I've done it in a inside of my own company. Sometimes I've had just me and one creator, and I've had periods where we built an entire, company just out of, just our bond and our collective goals. And sometimes, look, when I was at BMG, we had thousands of creators that ultimately we were responsible for and had the good fortune of being able to champion.
Right.
So, but the nucleus of all of it is loving, respecting, and looking up to creators,
Right.
and feeling like it's an honor to be able to support those journeys.
Right. Yeah, and you took it from music.
Yep.
And you continue with music when it came to Raised in Space.
Yep.
And evolved into creators when you moved to FaZe, and now,
Yep.
with Fixated,
Yep.
You really leaned into influencers,
Yep.
And streamers, and
Yeah.
just like you mentioned, creators in general. Like,
Yep.
this kind of where we are as we're moving in this evolution of entertainment.
Yep.
is super intriguing. Being somebody who's worked with celebrities, athletes, streamers, gamers, all that, like, it's fascinating to see what content is looking like. And there's this like window of like, oh, everything needs to be short as possible.
Yeah.
And now everything is like evolved into, it can be long, it can be short, it can be really whatever it is. It's really dependent on consistency. And that's where you guys are doing, a lot of, over at Fixated. Now, what was kind of, if we can tap into your mind a little bit, what was it that really you saw that made you want to kind of not just focus on music and the creators in that space, and really kind of open it up even more?
Yeah, look, it's a great question. I mean, I think the reality is my North Star is bringing value and being in environments where I can actually be uniquely valuable. The music industry is absolutely my first love. It's my first marriage, professionally. And, when I started in it, like you said, I was a music attorney, right? I felt like it was great, but I was being valuable. There was a limit to the value I can bring. I wanted to be a lot more creative, a lot more entrepreneurial. I wanted to help build careers, not just, kind of ensure that the transactional side of it, via contracts and everything else was taken care of. I wanted to be in the cockpit with creators.
Yeah, dig in.
Right. Yeah. And at that particular point, I transitioned into management. That allowed me to work much more hand in hand with creators.
Yeah.
I was feeling like I wanted to start building IP. Right. I wanted to be able to, I felt like there was, more value to be created by being able to actually, identify talent from scratch and be able to give them an opportunity to be able to have careers, right? And be able to really, really be a partner in that entire journey. So that's when JR and I and Tommy launched Beluga Heights, signed artists like Jason Derulo, Sean Kingston, and a bunch of others. During that entire journey, my value in what I was providing to creators was growing. That was one of the biggest drivers of all of it. I just wanted to, like, where else can I be valuable? And then when I joined BMG, this was that period where I felt like I'd honed in who I can be to creators.
Yeah.
Now I wanted to do it at scale, right? And what I did after doing that for almost 7 years, again, where could I evolve the value?
And a lot of people would have just like sat in that position.
Yes,
though.
correct.
You were like, it's time to shift.
It was time to shift, because for me, if I don't feel like I'm evolving the value prop, it doesn't. I feel complacent, and ultimately, working with talent, working with content from a creative standpoint, from an A&R standpoint, from a marketing standpoint, was great. The pinnacle of that to me was doing it at BMG for thousands of creators and being able to scale value, which we were able to do.
Yeah.
From there, I stepped out and joined with Scooter and Shira, and launched Race in Space, because again, it was where at least for me, where can we be valuable in a different way?
Right.
And that's where the fund spent 3 years identifying and investing into tools and platforms that would allow creators to look at and not just creators, but even the whole industry to look at itself more expansively. New revenue streams, right? New ways of being able to dazzle and delight audiences and fans, right? Innovating every single part of the value chain from the way we discover talent to the tools we give that talent, right? Rights management, payment solutions, boring but really important stuff.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Live and virtual entertainment, where was the evolution of that, right? Blockchain, Web3, AI, ad tech, that was part of all of it. So for me, it was really, really interesting to be able to explore a new form of value for the industry. So to me, it's always been about value, like literally the evolution of value, sitting at tables, being able to sit in different seats and be like, okay, I'm going to learn how to be valuable from this perspective, this perspective, and this perspective. So, and then what ended up happening was I kind of realized, at the end of Race in Space, that the music industry is an incredible industry that gives so much in the form of, dazzling and delighting audiences with music. Music is such a beautiful, it's maybe one of the most incredible, most powerful things that the world has ever experienced, that has been created.
It's my first love.
Right.
Yeah.
And same with me. But to me, I started seeing that the music industry was starting to fade from a value perspective. The music industry, for a very, very, very long time, was adding layers of value to creators. And I think it got to a place where it's like everything that could be done for creators has been done.
Right.
For this group of people, this industry is absolutely, completely, let's just even say, to their credit, nailed the value prop.
Right.
Meaning, you have support in creating your music, support in marketing your music, distributing it, monetizing it, all of that. And when I say support, dollars, manpower, technology, right? It's all there.
Yeah, you can do it in your room if you wanted
Correct.
to. Right.
It's been totally democratized, so anyone can do it, right? And I felt that like from a value perspective, that's already been set in stone. And the reason that I knew it is because we were no longer pushing the value. We started pushing the terms under which that value was given. Hey, I'm not going to do more for you, but guess what? I'm going to give you better terms, meaning I used to own your masters. Now you're going to own your masters, or we're going to co-own them. It used to be an 80-20 split in our favor because we're putting up all the money and we have hundreds of people working on your project. Now it's going to be a 50-50 or an 80-20 in your favor.
Right.
The thing that the music industry, instead of building new forms of distribution and monetization and marketing, they got to a place where that kind of like tapped out. And the only thing they could start playing with from a value perspective were the terms. And that's when I knew that the industry has hit a bit of a ceiling.
Yeah.
And for me, being a guy who's a value junkie, to me it was like, okay, where are new forms of creativity being born.
Yeah.
Right? Where creators are just starting to understand their full ambitions and need new forms of value. And I was very, very fortunate. I got, invited to join FaZe Clan,
Right.
which, is a leading gaming digital content company.
Right.
Absolutely, the best of the best.
Right.
These are the guys that took an industry like gaming,
Right.
which from a scale and dollar perspective is absolutely massive.
Right.
But it's never been an industry that was sexy from the perspective of culture.
Right.
Like everybody plays games,
Right.
but until
Like Madden culture was like the first like real kind of like the
Yes.
sports side of things. But FaZe like brought a brand that added lifestyle.
they brought a brand that brought a lifestyle, and they took an entertainment vertical, which was absolutely massive in every way, that people engaged with nonstop.
Yeah.
But nobody wanted to claim as part of their identity because it wasn't seen as cool and sexy.
Right.
You're a gamer, that means you're a nerd.
Right.
What FaZe did was FaZe reintroduced, or I should say introduced
Yeah.
to the world the rock stars of gaming.
Right.
It made gaming and gamers and people who play games cool. It made people say, hey, you know what? Like, so what are you into? I love music. And by the way, when I come home from work, I game for 5 hours. Whereas
Yeah.
before I was like nerd,
Right.
geek.
Right.
These guys
Wasting your
actually-
life, you
Wasting
know,
your
that
life.
kind of
These
shit.
guys made gaming cool from a culture perspective, and they really kind of emphasized that there was a business to be built
Yeah.
around gaming.
So
So
made a bunch of money for doing it, and that's what changed. Wanted everybody to go that way, right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
So they really became this portal into what this industry could be from a culture perspective, from an identity perspective, and of course from a business perspective. So when I got to FaZe, that chapter, that new beginning, to me, like I had the music book that I wrote, the music, book of my life that I wrote
Yeah.
that kind of ended with Raised in Space.
Right.
To me, going to FaZe was literally not a new chapter. It was a whole new book.
Yeah.
It was completely brand new. And because number one, I had no idea or very, very little idea about the digital entertainment space.
Right.
Right. I was a music guy for life.
Yep.
And when I joined FaZe, I had to really, really go back to school.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was very, very lucky, even at that point being, I joined as president and chief operating officer. I was very, very lucky that there was a lot of people there
Yeah.
that absolutely just allowed me to learn from them.
Yeah. Yeah. There were some
Right.
big dogs.
Yes.
You know?
Yes,
Yeah.
there was big
Yeah.
dogs.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, just as much as the big dogs, my biggest gratitude is to the 18, 19, and 20-year-olds who worked at the company that would allow me to keep them late after work. Mm-hmm. So I can ask them a bunch of stupid
Yeah.
questions. They'll
Yeah.
come over to my house over the weekend so I can serve them lunch.
And that
pick
just
their
goes to
brain.
show kind of like your, not just attention to the detail, but your interest to kind of really dig in,
I was fascinated with
Yeah.
it. I'm one of those, like, if I'm going to commit to something, I want to know more about it than anyone else.
Yeah.
Right. It's just natural. Like
Yeah.
I want to master that environment.
Right.
And look, the candid, story is prior to FaZe, yes, I understood that there were these guys called YouTubers, Twitch
Right.
streamers, TikTokers. But the reality is, like, I saw all of that entire population through the lens of promoting the music that I was excited about.
Right.
Got records coming? Great. Which TikTokers can do a
Yeah,
competition?
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, and by the way, that's still how the music industry looks at this environment.
For sure.
Right? So, but when I got to FaZe, I really was able to get this crash course 100 layers deep on the space for itself. And I absolutely fell head over heels for it because I felt like these people were absolutely reinventing entertainment.
Yeah.
At a time when Hollywood was shrinking,
Yeah.
right? And self-admittedly at this point.
For sure.
So I'm not knocking anyone.
Yeah, no, of course.
And this new industry was really coming into full bloom. I felt like the industry was misunderstood, number one. I felt like the creators were undervaluing themselves, not really understanding their power and purpose. Mm-hmm. And I felt like there was something missing. I felt like they needed champions.
Yeah.
And I felt like there was coming from an industry where value is completely flushed out, right?
Yeah.
For 50 plus years
Yeah.
in the ways that we talked about, where there's, record labels and publishers
Right.
and managers and the whole thing coming into the digital entertainment space through FaZe, I got to see just how much at the beginning this space
the blank
was.
canvas, man.
Blank canvas.
Yeah.
So to me, when I look at a blank canvas, to me it's value.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you know, with the music industry understands the importance and value of creators and music.
Right.
Right? The music industry will take somebody, you know, out of a coffee shop,
yeah,
and invest the time, energy, and money to put them in the studio, to market those records, to put them on tour,
right,
because they understand that there is a business there,
yeah,
right, from a business perspective. This industry, the digital entertainment space, it was it was different because it was an easy in for creators. Right? Much easier than even music.
Yeah.
All you had to do was turn on your camera on your phone, and here you go, and here's all of these platforms where you can post and start building social media. And I think that ease was mistaken by the rest of the industry.
Yeah.
Right? For frankly lack of talent.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I can see that because everybody's doing it.
The TV and film industry was like, hey, we're the generation that brought you Godfather. You're sitting here, you know, making 10-second videos.
Right.
Like, how are we even, like, we're not even in the same league. And for a very, very long time, these digital creators were like, I hear what you just said to me, and you know what? I have to kind of agree. So I'm just going to stay over here. I'm going to keep doing my videos. And you know what? Like, maybe one day, I'll get a call from Hulu or Netflix or Amazon, or I'll get invited to interact with the major leagues. But yeah, I get it. I'm in the minor leagues.
Yeah.
And then over the last, 2-3 years, the minor leagues have really, really been embraced by the entire world as the major leagues.
Yeah.
Right? Like, these are the guys and girls that hold the hearts and minds of all of these audiences. Right? Like, if you stop a teenager on the street today and they're like, what do you want to do when you grow up? And if you stop two of them, right? One will be like, I want to be a YouTuber. And the other one will say, I want to be a Twitch streamer.
Okay.
Everybody wants to do this.
Yeah.
This is the most coveted position and profession in the world right now.
Right.
And the reality is, all of the attention, all of the audiences, all of the dollars are going to this industry. And when I walked into FaZe, coming from this cousin industry, which has been around for so long, will always be resonant and always, will always be impactful, but ultimately completely like already built out, mature, frankly saturated.
Right.
I walked into this other environment. I'm like, this is the blue ocean, blue oceans, and I am so blessed to have been invited to be part of this community, especially coming into it through an incredible company like FaZe Clan. So for me, I quickly understood that this was an industry. The music industry has 10 forms of value that it gives to creators. This is an industry that was born 15 years ago, that frankly has only had one form of value for creators, which is brand deals. Right. So the conversation with a digital content creator is nice to meet you. I'm your manager. By the way, there are no record labels or publishers. Frankly, I don't know much about digital content itself. I don't know, about long form, short form, clipping strategies, YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, Snap, any of those things. It's heavy lifting. You've done a pretty good job at it so far. Go continue figuring it out with your friends. Mm-hmm. And if you do, good news, I'll get a brand deal for you. Right. So when I saw that coming from an industry that is so focused on investing into dollars, manpower, expertise, passion, love, knowledge, into content. Like the entire music industry is like, you sign artists, you sign creators,
don't create,
and you invest dollars and manpower into helping them create. This is an industry where the entire creative side is completely left to the creators. Yeah. And by the way, here's the difference. Music artists, back in the day when I started, can release an album every 3 to 5 years. Yeah. Fast forward to today, you got to release all the time. Yeah. But the music industry version of all the time is, I'm going to release a song once a month.
Right.
Digital entertainment requires creators to release their content every day, multiple times.
Right.
So here you are with the pressure of all of that, and there's nobody in your world other than your friends, which is a very, very closed loop.
Right. Nothing against them. It's not like they're, it's not like they're going down the road of like understanding management and business and those kinds of things.
So there's so much value that needs to be built, and that's why after leaving FaZe, it was like, okay, I'm so grateful that I got this crash course, that I really got to understand this industry.
Yeah, and there was a small amount of time there. You know,
it wasn't super long. But enough to really be like, I'm clear. And to be honest with you, once I got that clarity, right, like I would really want it. I ran towards being able to build it on my own in a way, with the right partners, obviously, in a way that I felt like it needed to be delivered. So, sorry, I know that was very long, but just wanted to give you a little bit of the transition, what pulled me into it, why, what I saw, why I got excited. And this is definitely, absolutely 1,000% going to be my environment for the rest of my career. Wow. It's not even a question. Because there's so much you can do with it and so much you can give to it. Yeah. Right? And this is what's going on with digital right now. This is 1,000% new Hollywood. So
I think ambition really stands out the most when it comes to creators, and working with a lot of them. It's different levels of it, just like with artists. Like some of them are going to dig in, some of them are not. So, but creators have like a really unique ambition, and the reason why I wanted to put my phone out is because when I sent you an email or text you, and then we kind of went to email, and I asked if you would be down to do this. You actually shared something, which it was a very small question, but for some reason it just stayed with me. And I don't know why, but I was like, oh, that's a really interesting question. I don't know why he asked it. I want to ask him why. And so when I asked you, you said, thank you, brother. Is this an interview or something more ambitious? Nobody would usually ask that question that I know. Right? But you wanted to just have a better, not just context, but in my mind, and you tell me if I'm wrong, because this is my perspective, right? I don't know, maybe you wanted to know, like, how far do I want to take this? Is that kind of like what you meant by just asking about the ambitiousness of it? Just because I'm curious. No, I'm glad you're bringing up that point. Look, to me, my entire lens in every single conversation that I have and go into is, what does the greatest version of this look like? That's it. That's my entire lens. Right? Meaning if I'm talking to a creator, what is the greatest version of their career? If I'm talking to somebody I'm mentoring who's an executive, and they're like, hey, I'm trying to do this or this, I'm trying to make this move, should I stay at this company, should I go start my own thing? Like, everything is through the lens of what is the greatest version of this opportunity, of your journey, of who you're evolving into look like as it relates to this. So I've known you for years at this point. For me, I've watched you do incredible work with your team. Thank you. And I know that, you and I had a call a couple of weeks ago where we talked about, you evolving who you are, what your business is, into actually you being a creator in your own right, which you absolutely are, but putting that on display. So, knowing that if when you're going to, you specifically, when you're going to give birth to certain projects, I would expect for you to take big swings. And when I say big swings, I mean, first and foremost, creatively, right? And from an impact perspective, and storytelling. That's why, to me, interviews are amazing. I love to get to know people. I love to share my perspective. It's always an honor to be invited. But knowing you, having the context of where you are in your position, what season you're in professionally, and just from a human level, I thought it was appropriate to say, what are we doing here? What, like, how big are you going? And I appreciate you contextualizing a little bit for me too, for me, because a big question I always ask, and it's funny, my wife will say this, I'll say this to her, and she'll be like, this is not a business deal, but in my mind, like, what are we trying to achieve? And it could be like the smallest, like, hey, whatever it is. I always ask myself, sometimes internally, sometimes externally, whether it's personal or professional, what is it we're trying to achieve here? I love that question. And once I know what we're trying to achieve, now I can support you. And now collectively we can get there. With clarity. That clarity is so powerful. Seriously. Right? And so thank you for explaining that. And it actually takes me to a really good point that I wanted to kind of like really lean into, was you have had so many partners, right? Some of them are more ambitious than not. What is it that you look into when it comes to your partnerships? More importantly, not, because you explaining value through this interview really kind of like stood out to me, because even for me, knowing you to some extent, I don't know you. I know enough of of your character, and you've always provided access. Anytime I hit you up, text me back, what do you need, brother? Like, I'm here. Like, what's going on? You connect me with somebody, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And I feel like you are, at least in my experience with a lot of people, you do have one-of-one qualities in that nature, or in that side of things. So what is it that would you look for with partnerships that makes it so, okay, I can click with these guys? Because you'll make moves, man. You're not worried to pivot.
Of course. Yeah. So to me, I mean, number one, I learned a long time ago that I'm not going to reach my greatest dreams and goals by myself.
Right.
First and foremost, I'm not I have resources, let me go hire a bunch of people so I can, own the whole thing. And, to me, like, there's so much magic in finding people who you are aligned with from a energy perspective, first and foremost, right? From an ambition perspective, from a being excited about an idea, right? Or a thesis perspective, right? From a learning from each other perspective, right? Like, so to me, I love partnering with people.
Yeah.
And by the way, I try to bring that spirit into even people that even work for the company.
Yeah.
I look at everyone as a partner, right? Because that's where they're going to thrive the most in knowing that they are, which they are. So to me, number one, collaboration, such a joy and such a beautiful thing. Being able to build things together, with people, that's absolutely one of the nectars, as we talked about. From a partnership, from a tangible perspective, number one, always look for people that are better than me in a vital part of the value chain of what we're trying to do. Right? Like, I know my superpowers, I know my strengths, I know the things that I absolutely need help with.
Right.
And if I can be in an environment where I'm in my zone of brilliance and staying away as much as I can from my zone of just competence, like, like a million people can do that. I'm just one of those million. But that one thing I can do better than anyone else. And my partnership with you allows me to be in my zone of brilliance while allowing you to be in your zone of brilliance. Shit, what a win-win. That's incredible. Right? So just working with people that really, really complement one another from their superpowers, I think is really, really important. I think that, going another level deeper on practicality, you're going to build a footprint when you're building something. So you also want to have partners that are going to show up in the world and represent you and what you guys are building, and vice versa, from a lens that you feel comfortable with. So it's got to be somebody that, first and foremost, treats people in situations as if you were there. Right? Has the same values, has the same morals, has the same appreciation for situations and people. Right? That's number two. And then number three, communication, man. Communication to me is key. You alluded earlier to, like, I hit you back. Well, obviously, that's just like being a responsible person walking on this planet. Like, if you can't find 2 seconds to be like, hey, you know what? Like, I'll hit you back. Like, some of the most successful relationships I've had, who, by the way, even with the most successful people, those people are like present. Communication shows that I'm with you.
For sure.
That we're on the same journey. For sure. Right? So the one, my non-negotiable no is when people do not communicate. You're never too busy. I'm never too busy.
Yeah, and part of that too is, like, you've reached a level, right, that a lot of people will work towards doing, right? And they'll see you in a particular way. So it's like, if you don't respond, and I get it. For me, like, my company, the people that I've been around, fortunately, like, we've done a lot of great work, and we've certainly are achieving, right? And I think a lot of that resonates. I don't want to call it the imposter syndrome, because part of it, like, it's not that I don't believe in it. It's kind of whatever you're going to believe in, it's going to be, right? And there is this kind of like moments like, they're probably doing this and they're probably not going to respond. It's all right. I'll fall into that. Although, like, I'm tenacious, I will hit you up incessantly. I will be that person that will bug the shit out of you until I get what I need. But I understand that. So, like, to your point, that is what you need in the partnership, that level of communication, and it certainly stands out, in how you approach it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, to me, it's really not that complicated. It's not. the way you live and the way you work, it's got to be the same person.
Yeah. What?
So there's the I live this way.
Yeah.
And here's who I am with my friends and my family.
Yeah.
But when I show up to work,
I'm the same person.
right?
Yeah.
And if you're not like, I just can't.
Can't switch it off.
I
like
can't
that's
switch it off.
that's
Look,
not
I'm
even
either
a real
this or
thing.
I'm this.
Yeah. And that kind of, you said earlier, everybody, wants to understand, there are the things that they do well.
Yep.
But they're not willing to work on the things that they don't do well, right? Their weaknesses. Like, I wanted to understand, like, what is the hardest truth that you ever had to accept about yourself that really kind of made you rethink either your approach or what you want to do?
Yeah, I think the hardest truth that I have had to accept about myself is I probably care too much about what other people think.
Yeah.
And it's good to care about what other people think, because that kind of goes to everything we just talked about before.
Yeah.
Right? It's good to care about what they think for the right reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also a version where you care about what they think for the wrong reasons.
Right.
And sometimes those get mixed up. And ultimately, the other thing that's been something that's, been an Achilles heel, not so much from a business perspective, but for keeping it all together perspective, is like giving everybody else room to be human and giving everybody else grace and permission, but not giving it to myself. Holding myself to a standard that's frankly a lot of times unattainable, and living from that place of like, nothing's good enough, you're not good enough.
You kind of put yourself on an island by doing that too, though, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And ultimately setting expectations on yourself you never would on anybody else, right? And ultimately trying to live into those expectations could be frustrating. Look, being a high achiever, you're going to have a version of that. Like the people who I really, really bond and click with and have had the most success with, their biggest level of pressure primarily comes from themselves.
Right.
They're not doing it. They're not performing because the pressure is coming from the outside world. There is an internal center. There's a volcano brewing.
Yeah.
Where like this has to be at the highest level.
Yeah.
And by the way, that will make somebody largely successful through the course of their life professionally. But it's hard to live with that person when you are that person.
Yeah.
So
I think it's like a big part of it that I've discovered. Like I went on this like really intentional process of meditation and like just seeking a bit more, just trying to better understand who I am. And it was right before COVID, and then during COVID, I found kind of like this level of, call it enlightenment. Like I was able to get to places in my meditation and study at times where, like during COVID, I can't tell you, I couldn't catch up to the amount of hours that I was doing because I was doing so much journaling and watching and studying. And I think I found this element of like who I am that made me so comfortable in any room. I can say I can go to Section 8 or I can go to C-suite. And a big part of how we share and find our love is how we love others. And I feel like if you can't love yourself, then how are you going to love someone else, right? And so what is the work that you do inside, for yourself, whether it be a daily process, something that you're just really aware of? What is that kind of like work? And do you think you just have to do a better job at working on it?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think, first of all, I've meditated for 20 years. I do transcendental meditation. It definitely gives me a different relationship with just my natural, instincts and my natural DNA, which is very, very like performance. Nothing is good enough. You're not good enough. I mean, that's, so I've definitely done work and have kind of, become much more friendly with the little me. So to speak, that 7-year-old kid who came here and got bullied on the playground.
Right?
Of course. Like I've definitely started becoming much more easy on him.
That's incredible.
Because he'll show up and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, I feel like I'm 7 years old again and I'm not good enough. It's just like, so really kind of coming, having a cohesive
and nurturing him. Nurturing him.
I think that's really been probably like the biggest thing. Because a lot of it comes from those periods of your life.
That level of nurture, I think, is like really important in that quiet time. And so finding that quiet time is like really difficult for you, especially kind of like as you're infused with all of these people.
Yeah.
In my meditations, at the end of each of my meditation, I always say I'm grateful for compassion, courage, grace, to serve with gratitude and lead with love, right? And I always end it with that.
Yep.
And I feel like that kind of leading with love is something that kind of really leans into a lot of the people that you're essentially establishing these relationships and cultivating what you're working towards. The youth that you're working with now, because of these, influencers and kind of just society as it is, like, how are you kind of like leading with love with them? Like, is that approach that you take in general? And I knew that you did meditation obviously before today, but I'm just very curious how you foresee that, because a big part of it's like, how are they going to be supporting society and community and all of that? Like, how do you foresee that?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think first of all, I think we're in a world that's still hasn't embraced the fact that this new generation, are infinitely smarter and more advanced than we are. Mm-hmm. Right? They are figuring things out that are absolutely leading where everything is going. Mm-hmm. Right? From technology, from entertainment, from content, from anything and everything. Right? So, and I think that a lot of young people are still being hit with, you didn't go to university, right? So, I'm not going to give you the respect or the opportunity. A lot of young people are still being hit with, I'll let you know when it's your turn to speak, mm-hmm. right? And you have to, blood, sweat, and tears for 3 years before I even listen or take you seriously. Mm-hmm. I think that's a massive mistake. Mm-hmm. I think it's probably one of the biggest mistakes that this new digital entertainment space has made, mm-hmm. is not understanding the power, mm-hmm. the purpose, and the value of young people. We work with people that are, no exaggeration, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18, and I literally sit at their feet. Mm-hmm. I'm just like, wow, you are brilliant. What can I learn from you? Mm-hmm. You have so much knowledge, understanding, instincts, mm-hmm. right? I try to pay it back with the one thing that I can pay it back with, which is wisdom. Yeah, that's what you get to pay back with when you get to a particular place of experiences and age and everything else.
Like you had this level of experience where you can kind of really be that for them. Yes, where a lot of people can't, which I think is fascinating. Yep. That you're in this position. Yeah.
But they're doing a lot more for me than I'm doing for them. Mm. Let's be super, super clear. Like this generation, they are naturally brilliant. What they are growing up holding, seeing, touching, mm-hmm. right? And the way they're learning is you can't keep up with them. Yeah. I think that it's really a mistake to not lean in and become their partner. Yeah. From a very, very early age. Yeah. Yeah. And when I say partner, I just mean being there and treating them as an equal. Yeah. Rather than one day, kid, right? I'm going to give you the time of day. Yeah. It's like, dude, you need to give them the time of day now, and you're lucky enough if they give you the time of day. Right. And if you can find that common language and that win-win, anything and everything is possible. Yeah. And I think a lot of people really, really are still missing the value.
That's great. I'm going to leave you with one last question.
Please.
What is a question that people are not asking themselves that they should, in your perspective? I think we ask ourselves a lot of questions and we want to know all these answers. But I think when someone's, in their own space, like, what's a question, whether it be creators, influencers, could be children, because, you have a couple daughters, or family. What is a question that we are not asking that we should?
I think number one, I'm going to give you a couple.
Okay.
And I'm giving you a couple because there's questions we should be asking ourselves, mm-hmm. and then there's questions that we should be asking one another. Mm-hmm. I think the question we're not asking ourselves enough is, why am I here? What is my purpose? I'm not just here to consume, and it's like why this life is such an incredible lottery win. Mm-hmm. What am I here to do? What am I here to contribute? Yeah. right? I think that's, and I think people ask the question, but I think that, I think truthfully, I think it's a lot of people ask the question. A lot of people actually even get the answer, but I think not enough people accept that answer.
Yeah, that's real.
Big difference between knowing the answer and accepting the answer, right, and living with that acceptance. I don't mean accepting it from okay, I understand, but I'm talking about living and manifesting that truth. And then I think that the question people are not asking others enough is, where can I be valuable to you? I think we're still living in a culture where it's just like everybody's just going for theirs, and that's fine. People should get theirs, right? This is, nobody's asking anyone to be Mother Teresa, but like I think that when you're not asking that question, even from a self-serving perspective, you're not unlocking the greatest version of what your relationship could be with somebody else. Yeah. Because if people actually understand what's in it for the other person, right, and where they can be valuable in helping them accomplish that, the level of collaboration, ambition, and success goes to a completely different level. Yeah. So
I love that. So I appreciate your time, man. Really do. For coming here and making the space. You've always, like I said, man, you've always been somebody I've admired, your ambition, your work ethic, and just how you cultivate relationships and how you were able to communicate, even on the smallest little things. I'm a sponge. I'm always super aware. And so I hope more leaders continue to approach in that way. And we just appreciate you for lending your perspective.
No, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me on this first episode. I'll leave you with something. Yeah. This is a special project for you. Yeah. It has purpose. It allows you to bring insight and perspectives to the world. It allows you to bring your very, very beautiful and magnetic personality to the world. Thank you. Knock it out the park. Yeah. Knock it out the park. Ask yourself the question of what does the greatest version of this look like? Because it could start with content, but ultimately you're inviting a community. And I would love to see you build this thing into something that teaches people, that inspires people, entertains people, and ultimately invites people to be better.
Thank you, Pat. Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you.